This is Tyler with Top Dog Sewer and Drain performing a camera inspection at 1009 Union Street, Manchester, New Hampshire. We had previously been here to check out the line as part of a home inspection. We found the line was overrun with some very severe root growth. Since then, we have gone in and we spent quite a bit of time snaking out that line and removing all that root growth and making sure everything's flowing good, and it's looking like it's in pretty good shape. We're going to do a final camera inspection here and just show the progress we've made. So right now we're out at the end of this sewer line. We are looking at the city sewer here, and we're going to work our way back. In the bottom left hand corner, it says the line's about 113 feet. I think that's just a couple feet off. We're right in that that range of 110 to 120 though, something like that. Probably closer, a little bit closer to the 120. But we're going to start working our way backwards from here, the city sewer, all the way out, and we're going to go back to the beginning here where we started the main clean out in the basement over by the washing machines. So we're leaving the city sewer at the end there. So in the final section of the pipe, maybe the last 30 feet or so, there's actually no root growth at all. That's all under the street for the most part, and there's nothing that comes in there. So for future reference, if a root maintenance were to be performed on this line, which should be done every year or two, just to stay on top of the root growth, only the first 100 feet of the line or so would need to be snaked to remove the roots. And it's really somewhere from like the 40-45 foot range out to about the 90 foot range is where the most attention would be needed. And you know, the spot with the most roots coming in is probably in that 45 to about 75 foot range is probably about the worst area. You can see we're working our way backwards. Everything looks pretty good so far. The line was so full of roots last time that we weren't able to get out this far, and we weren't really able to see much of anything when we did the first camera inspection. But considering how many roots were in here after they were removed, the line itself is actually in good shape. There's no real cause for concern here except for the roots themselves. Everything seems to be pitched pretty well. Nothing's holding any water. There's no issues with the connections between these sections of pipe. So now we're getting back here to about the 80 foot range. You can see the line's wide open. We are going to encounter a few spots along the way where there's still a couple strands of roots hanging out. That's one of those things where it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get every single little piece, and no matter what, those roots are coming back. Which is where that root maintenance comes in preventatively to stay on top of the issue before the roots are able to grow in and cause an actual blockage. So you can see here, mostly in the top left side of the screen, little bit of roots left over there. Again, that's one of those things where it becomes very, very difficult, if not impossible, to remove every last bit. It's almost like holding a string in one hand and trying to chop at it with a kitchen knife with the other hand. It's just, if you're not able to grab them, you really can't cut them out. But it's going to be several years before these roots pose any threat at all. And even in the spots where we removed the roots all the way down to the edge of the pipe, those are still going to grow back too. So none of this is a permanent solution. It all requires ongoing attention, and it, as long as it's managed, it's really not the end of the world. So we're going to keep pulling back here. You can see we got it top left hand side. We have another little bit of roots hanging down. Again, it looks scary, but that's really nothing to be concerned about short term. And it really is extremely difficult to get every little piece. You can see a couple more there on the right side poking out. And this is in comparison to that prior video we made where the line was just completely full, years and years and years worth of growth. And now we're wide open, and we just have those tiny little bits poking through. So this is an example here on the right side in that connection. You can see just a tiny bit of where the roots are left. So even when they're removed all the way down to the side of the pipe, they're still there, and they're still going to come back. The real key here is just making sure that you stay on top of them and you manage them going forward, and you remove the growth as it comes in. A little more there. A little more there than any of the other spots, really. We tried to get that. We sat with the camera, we lined it up and everything. The real issue is we just can't grab it with the snake when it gets down to be so little. But again, it'll be several years before that poses any risk of blockage. And as long as the line is managed and taken care of on a regular basis, these can be removed as they start to grow in. A little more there. And so you can see we were really dealing with an issue where for a section of the line here, you know, every few feet at the connections we're dealing with some root growth coming in. And this one's actually a pretty good example there of what I was talking about with holding a string in one hand, trying to whack it with a kitchen knife in the other. As you can imagine, it's just almost impossible to even grab this with the snake enough to actually cut it off. But we removed a very, very significant amount of roots. It took us several hours to do so. You can see we have some here. Again, that looks scary, but that's really not going to be an issue for several years. And as they start to grow in again, we'll be able to remove a little bit more. And as long as it's managed, it's nothing to be concerned about. A little bit there on the left side. We're coming back to about the 40-foot range. This is probably where we're going to stop seeing roots. I don't think there was much, if any, in this initial section of the pipe. And as you can see, you know, we've been going back all the way from the city sewer. We're about 33 feet away from the foundation here. A little bit of roots there, so I guess there's a few closer up. But aside from the roots, everything looks good. You know, there's no sections of the pipe holding water. There's no big misalignments where the pipe's coming apart. No cracks, nothing. Everything's flowing through nicely. It was just a matter where those roots had been allowed to grow in so long and had not been fully removed when they were serviced. But now we've gone through, we've removed just about every little piece of them, save for the couple that we've been seeing as we go. And now this line's in very good shape. Won't need any attention for a minimum of a couple years, but it should definitely be something that, keep in mind, will need to be managed going forward just to control that root growth. And I think right about in this area here, you can see we just popped up. So we're going from, I believe, a 4-inch pipe here, and we drop down into a 6-inch pipe. We're coming back. We're about 11 feet from the foundation. That change in size of the pipe's right around the 12-foot mark. And we're coming back almost all the way out at this point. And that's a hose we had in there to run some water. Forgot to take that out before I started the inspection. But we're back at the main clean out here next to the washers. And we're just going to head back in briefly. So what this line does, it exits the side of the building over by the smaller driveway, and it comes out, drops into the larger pipe, and then right here about the 15, 16, 17 foot range, something like that, it takes a right turn, heads down to the smaller driveway and out to the street. And you know, the majority of the roots that we saw, there's a big tree right at the corner of the driveway there, and that's going to be what's growing into the line and causing the majority of that root growth. So that's going to conclude the camera inspection. Again, we're over here at 1009 Union Street, Manchester, New Hampshire. This is Tyler with Top Dog Sewer and Drain. We can be reached at 603-439-2828 with any questions. All right, thank you.